Hi friends, my name is Mariah. Welcome back to my channel, Mariah's Moods. Today I'm going to talk to you about the 9 books that I read this month in February. Go me. Last month I only read 6 books. This month I read 9. Super proud of myself. I was able to get actually some books off my physical TBR, so super pumped about that. Did a little bit of Kindle reading. I read 2 library books this month, which I have a goal this year to utilize my public library a little bit more outside of just like my Libby audiobooks that I typically listen to. I want to actually check out more physical books this year. So I read 2 this month. One of them I don't have with me anymore because I had to return to the library, but one of them I still have with me. So because I did a lot of physical reading, a few in tandem with audiobooks, I just decided to go in chronological order instead of by format. So let's get into it. So the first book that I finished this month, I actually started in January and then finished it in February, and that is Priceless by Miranda Silver. This book is trash in all the best ways. Listen, this is just for pure enjoyment, pure... I just needed some smut. I needed some spice, and I needed it dirty, and Priceless delivered. I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was recommended to me by one of my friends in my in-person book club that I attend on Tuesdays, and she also has a few more very smutty recommendations for me that I'm looking forward to. I'm debating on doing a smutty reading vlog, obviously keeping it PG-13 because I don't need daddy YouTube breathing down my neck. But tell me if that's something that you would be interested in watching. Do you want to see me read the smuttiest, spiciest books and just be absolutely mortified? Leave it in the comments, let me know. Okay, so Priceless follows Christina and Patrick. They're both in college. Christina is just a little bit of a hot mess. She's not good with her money. She's kind of spiraling. She gave up cheerleading. She has like basically just kind of let her life go. And she's in a really dark place. Like literally it starts off like her electricity is out because she couldn't afford to pay her electric bill, and she's been spending her money on just basically pleasing all of her friends. Like just throwing money. And so she runs into Patrick, and he overhears a conversation of her telling her friend that she's basically like broke, like I don't even have a place to stay, it's winter, it's cold in my apartment, and her best friend, her supposed best friend, basically kind of blows her off, like, sorry, there's too many people in my apartment, like, you'll figure it out. So Patrick basically overhears this conversation, realizes, hey, this is a girl that is struggling, she's attractive, he's looking for a certain something. So he approaches Christina and offers to make a deal that as long as she commits to some private time, you know what I mean, that he'll pay her for that. He'll just pay her like a couple $100 a week to hang out. And she agrees. And things just happen from there. When I tell you that I was like, what? Like, what? What? Yeah, it was great. It was great. I enjoyed it. It was smutty. It was spicy. It was quick and easy. I'm pretty sure this is on Kindle Unlimited, but my friend had the physical copy, so I was just like, yeah, just give me the book. Give me the book. Highly recommend if you are into some spice. Like, it is... That's it. That's it. Okay, so then the next book that I finished in February, I actually have a reading vlog for it, my romance reading vlog. I read Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson. I ended up giving this book also a 4 out of 5. I really, really enjoyed this one. This was a little bit out of the typical, in my opinion, the typical romance. It is centering around Phoebe. Phoebe is working on her PhD dissertation. She's writing about true crime as a genre. She has to go back to Florida because her estranged father has passed away. She has to help her brother kind of clean out his house while she's working on her PhD dissertation. Then she runs into the neighbor, Sam, and she is convinced that Sam is a serial killer. And it's funny, it's cute, it's a little spice. It's not, it's not this, but it's good. It's good spice. It's not fade to black, but it's not overdone. It's not cheesy. The romance is cute. Sam is adorable. Phoebe is just hilarious. Like, I just relate to her. She just jumps to conclusions like that. And I get it. I get it because I do the same thing. And she's really funny about it. Given that this does talk about serial killers, I do appreciate that Alicia Thompson really didn't dive into like actual serial killer cases. Like, there's references of like common cases, but it's not really discussed in this book. And I think there's a like content warning in the beginning, and she talks about that there is no violence. She says that there is no on-the-page violence or active killing in this book, but it does discuss neglect, emotional abusive childhoods, and suicide ideation. So those are just some trigger warnings. I would definitely look into it before you read this book, but if those aren't triggering to you, I highly, highly recommend. Also, super cute cover. I can't stop like talking about this cover. Yeah, so this was a 4 out of 5. February started off great. It started off great. Then after that, I wanted to keep the romance going. I think I'm entering my romance era. I've been taking a break from fantasy, and I'm honestly missing it, so I feel like March is going to be different. But February, maybe because Valentine's Day, I don't really celebrate Valentine's Day, but I was just in romance mood. So after Love in the Time of Serial Killers, I picked up Wishful Thinking by Celestine Martin. I ended up giving this one, I think, Goodreads says 4 out of 5, but I think it was a 3 out of 5, a 3.5, and I just rounded up. I really enjoyed this one. It was cute. Lucy is a witch, and she has a happy life. She's satisfied with her life. She's just kind of content. And her cousins and sisters decide to cast this wish spell to basically try and change their lives. And she wishes for more excitement in her life. But unfortunately, this wish actually becomes almost like a curse where Lucy cannot say no. She is kind of brought into a cake baking contest, a karaoke singing contest, a 10K, but most mortifyingly to her, she reconnects with Alex, her previous best friend / crush from high school. He's back in town. His parents have bought him this house, hoping that he establishes roots. He wants nothing to do with it. He wants to sell this house, but this house is cursed, or I forget how they say, it's hexed or jinxed. So he asks Lucy to help him unjinx this house because she's a witch, and because of this curse, she can't say no, so they're kind of forced to spend time together. And it was cute. It was light. I do not recommend the audiobook. In my vlog, I talk about my issues with the audiobook. There's a few things that I wish was a little bit more in this book. I wish we would have seen more magic outside of just that wish curse that happens. I wish that we had gotten more of like the jinx that's in this house. Like, it's really just mentioned, and she's like, oh, you just gotta love it. We just gotta love the house, decorate it, and it'll be fine. Like, I wanted a little bit of like spookiness, like light spookiness, like cozy spooky. I don't know if that's a thing, but that's what I was looking for. So I think that's why it kind of fell a little bit short for a 4 from me. Okay, so then after that, February, it like started off so strong. I had 3 4-star books. And I was like, you know what? It's snowy. I want to pick up like a spooky read. So I picked up The Whisper Man by Alex North. And I'm seriously disappointed that I spent the amount of time to read this that I did. And the thing is that I feel like it has pretty solid reviews on Goodreads. So it must be something with me that I'm not getting. This wasn't for me. I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. This book started off strong. I started tabbing it, and then I gave up. Let me give you a brief synopsis of what this book is. This book follows actual multiple perspectives kind of circling around this plot. So first off, we have a young boy that goes missing. And so we're following two different detectives that are working on finding this missing boy. One of the detectives has a little bit of experience because 20 years prior, there were boys that were going missing for similar circumstances. Now, the perpetrator of that crime has been found. That detective found him, and he's been incarcerated. So they know that it is not the original Whisper Man that is that has kidnapped and unfortunately harmed this young child. But they think it could possibly either be a copycat or there was an original accomplice associated with the Whisper Man. So the one detective, I think his name is Pete, is going to speak to the Whisper Man, trying to get information, and we're following Amanda, the other detective, that is just trying to not make the same mistakes that Pete did as he was going through the original investigation. So that's one aspect of the story we're following. The other aspect of the story that we're following is a father and son, Tom and Jake. Tom, his wife has recently deceased, and Jake is a 6-year-old boy. They decide to move from their home and to a new town, just to kind of like start over fresh. The mother's death was very traumatic for Jake because he was the one that found her, and he has been coping with imaginary friends and not really socializing and drawing really disturbing images and things like that. So Tom thinks that it's a good idea to move from their current town to this small town, which happens to also be the area that the Whisper Man was working under, and now this new child has gone missing. So their storylines kind of overlap. This has all, like I said, all of the makings to be a good like horror thriller, but it just fell short. It just fell short. Like, things happened, but then it was like, it felt like nothing was happening. Like, we were getting these hints, like in the beginning, it was creeping me out. Like, I had to stop reading it at night because like the Whisper Man was scaring me. Jake was scaring me. Like, the 6-year-old kid was freaking me out, and his weird like imaginary friend, it was freaking me out. But then it's like all for nothing. And as you go through the story, it just didn't like it. I don't understand. It's like two different books. It was two different books in one, and I just feel like Alex North didn't know where he wanted to go with it, and so it was just very like, oh yeah, this is great, and then it was like, wait, what? Like, we're doing this? Like the big reveal of who was the perpetrator. What? Like, it just didn't make sense, and there was like parts of the storyline just I felt like were unnecessary. I felt were a little rushed, not really finished. I mean, it's a short book, and I feel like he was trying to do a little too much in this book. So 2.5, 2 stars out of 5. So after that, I decided to go back to my romance smut. And so I did some Kindle reading. And I decided to reread the first 3 books of the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey. I think that there's like 5 or 6 in the series. I just kind of dropped it and I never picked it back up. And I was just like, I want to finish that, but I don't even remember what happened in the first 3 books. Mindfuck series is following Lana, who is a serial killer. This girl has gone through some trauma, and she is basically hunting down, one by one, the men that assaulted her. And so she's a serial killer, and she is bad. This girl is a bad bitch. This is also following Logan. Logan works for, I think it's like the FBI. He's an FBI profiler. And so he is trying to solve Lana's crimes. They strike up a romance. So it is just Lana basically trying to dodge Logan as she's also falling in love with Logan, and Logan, trying to find this serial killer, not realizing that he's like literally laying in bed with her. So I'm only 3 books in. Listen, am I going to say that these are the best written books? No. Are there some plot holes? Yeah. Is it entertaining? Absolutely. I think I gave all 3 of those like 3 out of 5 stars, but I do recommend it. After that, I was still salty about Whisper Man, went to the library, and I read Leave the World Behind by Rahman Alam. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars, and I still don't know how to feel about it. It's a weird book. So it's basically following this family who has, they live in like New York City. They're very affluent and they're going on vacation out of the city to New Jersey. The night that they get there, this older couple shows up and they're like, hey, there's an outage in New York City. Like, we're in our 60s. We live in the Upper East Side on the 14th floor. Like, we can't, like, literally make it up to our apartment. We don't feel safe in the city. Like, there's alarm systems happening. We thought that since we're the owners of this Airbnb, that we could, like, stay here and we could work something out. Like, we can refund you your money, you can stay, we can stay. Like, there's a basement, we can stay in the basement. You guys have the main room because you have the Airbnb, but there's something going on in New York City and we just don't feel safe. This story is following these 2 families, essentially. So this family unit that is there at, I don't even remember half these people's names, at the Airbnb, who's rented the Airbnb, and then the owners of the Airbnb. And it's like, it's got this like post-apocalyptic like feel, like something is happening, like animals are being weird, like there's some weird sounds, people are getting sick, and so we're very isolated. Like, we are reading this from a very isolated point of view, kind of as if we were the characters themselves. They have no connection to what's going on in New York City or in the news around them. There's no radio working, no TV working. The few times that they try and leave the house, like something crazy happens, so they no longer feel safe. So they're not getting answers and we're not getting answers. So I appreciated that. It was like an interesting perspective to read because like we're trying to figure out what's happening along with the characters, but I just wanted like a few answers. Like, I just wanted like something. There would be like little hints of, but what they didn't know is this sound was caused by this phenomena that was happening in this part of the world, and the US was responding. Like, but it was very vague. I'm like, okay, but like, what is happening? What is happening? Is there war? Like, is there nuclear war happening? Is it an alien invasion? Is there some type of like, are we going through the zombie apocalypse right now? Like, there was no answers. I would have loved an epilogue maybe to explain what was happening, like what was going on in the world. That would have been really nice. We didn't get that. So because of that, I only gave it, like I said, 3 stars. Because I liked the isolation and the confusion, but I thought it was lacking explanation in the end. Like, so then it kind of felt like, well, what was the point? Anyway, the final book that I read for February, I literally just finished, was We Were Never Here by Andrea Bartz. Another 2 stars out of 5. February started off so strong and then it just like ended in a dumpster fire. But that's okay because that's matching my current personal life as well. We Were Never There follows 2 friends, Emily and Kristen. They've been friends since college. They connected in college and just became inseparable. And Kristen has recently moved across the world to Australia. So the 2 friends have decided that every year they take a trip with each other to a more obscure part of the world. So not the common places like Paris, London, Rome, Sydney. They go to smaller areas that are a little less, traveled. So places like Cambodia, and they went to Uganda, and I forget what other place they reference, but it starts off with them in Chile. And they're in this really, really small town, and they're kind of like, it's just like a weird vibe. But we learn that the year before, the trip before, while they were in Cambodia, Emily was attacked, and through self-defense, the two of them ended up unaliving the attacker and disposing of this man and fleeing Cambodia. So this is their first time seeing each other in person since that event. Like, it traumatized Emily. Therapy, like, couldn't get out of bed like any normal person, right? No. Kristen just lives on her best life. Like, yeah, look, that happened, but it's totally fine, right? They're in Chile. And somehow the same situation happens again. And so we're following Emily trying to cope with what has now happened for the second time in her life, and Kristen's reactions to that, and we're digging in a little bit further, and she realizes there's a lot more to the story than what she believes. And now, that sounds really interesting. Like, that sounds like it would be a great book. But the execution, for me, was not there. It was not there. Emily got on my ever-loving nerves. She was whiny, which I get it. Like, she's been through trauma. Like, I totally understand that. But she was so whiny. She was so back and forth in her feelings and in her mind. I don't mind an unreliable narrator, but I just don't feel like this was done well. I couldn't relate to her. I couldn't feel sorry for her like I wanted to feel sorry for her. And Kristen was just crazy. So I was reading this book, and I at first was very intrigued, and then it just slowly, like, nothing was happening, nothing, like, we would get little, like pick up and then go back again, and I was just like, oh my gosh, can we just end it? I didn't care for the ending, I didn't care for the reveal, I didn't care, I just didn't care. I didn't care about these characters, and as terrible as that sounds, because Emily went through some crap, and Kristen did too, it just wasn't written in a way that, like, I sympathized for them. So it was 2 out of 5 stars. So overall, I read, like I said, the 9 books in February. I'm happy with how February went in general. I was able to knock off some of the challenges and goals that I have for the month or for the year. But I really wish it would have ended on a higher note. But I do have some fun things planned for March and some fun ideas for March, and I think I'm gonna get back into my fantasy because I just need a little more escapism than what I've been reading. So that is all I have for you guys. That was my wrap up for the month of February. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and I would really love it if you would subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!